What does love mean to you? How far does it extend? Do you spend a lot of time trying to define other people's love and what that should be for them? How about spending more time trying to understand what love means to you? Hi everyone, welcome to another episode with Healer Holly. And this one is about what does love mean to you? And how far does your love extend? What is love? That's the question. I'm one of those people who tends to believe that everything is love. Why? Because that word, it doesn't have a fixed meaning, but it makes everything feel all right. Like it's just an essence, this portal in our thoughts that it's just something you gotta trust. You don't know what it is, but you know when you have it, if it's love, it's gonna be the right thing. It's aspirable, it's inspirational, it's safe, it's divine, it's connected. And so when I think about that, I think that, well, anything that can happen to me must be linked to love, or else there's something wrong with the design of things, right? I'm one of those people who I believe that we're constantly creating our reality. I'm trying to find projection at the moment for another episode. And to me, at the moment, I'm really settling on the idea that projection is everything that you can encounter in your reality is projection. And it'll manifest in accordance to what you believe about yourself. And the key to believing greater and greater things about yourself is to accept self-love. And that the key to accepting self-love is to find love in just about every little thing that you do. And in this sense, I dig into time. I think, okay, to a certain extent, nature versus nurture. We're taught love by the love that we get from our parents. That's our foundation. There's this weird thing that as I get more spiritual, as I get older, I realize I don't know if I'm meant to reclaim all the things that didn't fit me, that didn't resonate with me sincerely from my childhood, and all these things that kind of, formed what I think and my opinions on things and how I function through things and my passions and what ignites my sense of purpose in life. Or am I just kind of the unfolding of a seed? And that, in a sense, is just the environment the seed is growing in, because trees, they just kind of grow into whatever space they can, given what they need. And so if all is love, even that stuff that I need to grow away from to find myself, is that not also who I am? Because what I am really is the journey that I represent, is the life that I live, is the story that I leave behind, are the trails and connections that I influence. So I think about time when I think about love. I'm in the spiritual community. A thing that I love doing is debating with friends about this or that belief. It's like a spiritual philosophical dick measuring contest. Who's got it mapped out the best? I think this, for constantly creating reality, it's down to who's mapping it out the best. What are the tools that you use with language? And don't get attached to that, because that's ego. So there's a sense away from thought. It's so profoundly deep and so profoundly complex, and yet so profoundly simple, because there's little words, there's little essences like love, joy, compassion, empathy that just pave the way. And the funny thing is, you don't have to think too much. You just gotta feel, you just gotta be. So to me, that is love. If the answer is that what you do anyway is the main and strongest source of fuel, which is being, feeling, responding, answering to your honesty, helps you find flow and presence, conditioning into exercises to see what they're worth, to then move away from them. All these things, it's just, it's so big and it's so complex. You got to remember as well, if you're going to look at time as love, you can't really judge the things that formed you. Not if you're going to love yourself. In fact, if you go along the belief that you're constantly manifesting your reality, which, guys, I just watched a podcast on the Aubrey Marcus podcast where him, a scientist and a huge DMT ceremony advocator, are debating, given the science that's being found, that DMT acts as like a sort of neurotransmitter, so we potentially might be, according to the fact that we find DMT in the body and the brain naturally anyway. I don't know if a lot of you people know this. You don't actually have to go and find outside sources of DMT. Everything that's alive creates trace amounts, and actually they started to map that in the brain. The level, it's almost analogous to the levels of serotonin that the brain produces. It's constantly being produced, and if it acts in a way that's similar to a neurotransmitter, maybe it is chemically, physically the sign that we are constantly manifesting a reality, and it is a biological process. So we're going to look at things from that point, from that standpoint. Everybody's constantly manifesting reality at the same time then, so it's a shared scape of conscious manifestation. So we are all one, we are all connected, everything is a projection of you. And if loving yourself is the way to your dreams, it's as simple as that, then finding love in everything around you, in a sense, is loving yourself. And so I want to link this to managing your energy. Managing your energy, what is love? Expand your notion of it. Know that whatever you decide to do in a situation is love. So choose the thing that resonates with you the most. Anything that you could offer someone else, in a sense, is love. It might be a long lesson or a short lesson. But if it resonates with your body, with your heart, with everything that you learned, with everything that you're at in that moment, follow it. Follow your love and let it teach you. Let it allow you to grow through love. It's not about the conscious, rational control around the thing. It's the intention that you go into it with. So even that person who, you want to blame a bunch of stuff that's happened to you on, well, they had a story that's as complex and as deep-rooted into who they are as your story is complex and deep-rooted into who you are. And if you're an unfolding of love, then they're an unfolding of love. And so to designate yourself a quality and someone else not, I feel like it's short-sighted. Because I think that in higher-minded notions of what reality is, there are pockets of love. Doesn't mean you have to go and compromise yourself for anyone else that doesn't feel right to go around. I still also believe, if we're constantly manifesting reality, we need a good roadmap. And I was raised by psychology. So I appreciate the idea of facing your patterns, facing your shadows. But as I grow spiritually, I start to feel like this stuff is more dynamic than what I was raised with. It's not just a bunch of words. It's not just bringing the unconscious into the conscious. It is giving yourself a four-dimensional aspect of what action looks like. And action is constantly a vibrational thing. So it's what are the activities that you could keep doing to let yourself understand that joy is allowed, empathy is allowed, trust is allowed. And that make you brave. Brave until things just flow easily. And this, I think, extends into my episode of reframing anxiety into something that's putting you into the gym of life, hoping to expand neural pathways. If this is too dense, guys, watch that episode. So what is love? I'm going to come back and repeat this a lot in this episode. So if we follow the truth of the body, what we notice is that as we're growing up, eventually we get exposed to something that we know ignites our passion, an experience that we know molds our joy, our aspirations, what we want to feed into, what we want to do more of. Maybe you went to a dance party or your parents were having a dinner party when you were a kid and you heard some jazz music, or they were dancing a storm and you just went up and you started shaking, and something in that kid brain is like, shaking. Shaking is the way to go. Shaking and boogieing, baby. That was being alive. Like I didn't know life could offer being alive like that. Maybe you read Ernest Hemingway. Maybe you went to a concert and saw Beyonce. Or whoever, Nina Simone. And you felt this electricity, and from then on you're like, I want to sing. And you just knew, and that burned in your heart so strong, it was true to your core. And maybe that was just a layer being shed. You're like, whoa, this feeling of reality was so huge that I'm going to explore that for a while, and then leads you to something else and something else. Love, guys. The frequency of it. It is expansive. You don't need to know where you're heading. You just need to know that you want to invest into something that you discovered sensorially, that was offered to you by something that's not you, by some other person who just, followed their love until they were amazing at offering this thing. Follow their love, their pain, everything that made them. The expression of their soul. And that influenced you, and that programmed you, and that gave you urges and direction. Everything gives you direction, guys. Everything is love in that sense, if you can conceive it that way. And our body is healthiest when it starts to manage the idea of energy in that way. You can become detached as much as is conducive to more joy, more self-love. And then you can reattach, knowing the essence of the flow of love. And that love is in all things. When you love yourself enough and you understand that love is in all things, you don't have to think about right or wrong. You just go into something with yourself first. Who do I want to be in this moment? Who of all the people who've really resonated with me, inspired me to be? What definition of love burns in my soul? And how can you grow it? Because I think that when you grow love, it converges towards infinity. Like, it just makes you lighter and lighter. Hence light work. And if I'm going to go back to this notion of imbuing love in time itself, then you are an endless unfolding of love. Should you learn? Should we help each other? And this is where choice can be amazing. Should you pick up things that you trust will make that more obvious? And should you contribute something that someone else can bump into that will make that more obvious for them, because it came from that place of, oh my God, who else knows this? In my real heightened moments of awakening, it's like, oh my God, who knows this? Somebody else needs to know this. It's all perfect. It's all love. Like a undefined source feels like undefined bliss. So everything that is defined is of the same nature of that, because if that's what we go back to, then everything's perfect anyway. And I can't prove any of this, but that's what my awakening felt like. And it planted that belief into my head, and it became the core of who I am. And it infused every definition of reality from that point on. It's like I'm trying to build the roadmap of what reality is from the acceptance of that experience. And so things like we're constantly creating our reality, manifesting our reality. You are a projection of your beliefs of yourself, because the day I had my awakening, I was trying to answer the question, who is Pierre and what does Pierre want? I was not ready for the way my psyche was going to answer that. I'll go into the story one day, guys. For now, I just like leaving a mystery. So I think about this. If we're constantly manifesting our reality, then is time real? And I've gone into this in other episodes of like, what if you lived life as if every moment you were fated to be in that exact moment? How much presence does this bring into your life? And also, if you look at it that way, then time doesn't exist. Just the feeling of an experiencing of time exists. But you're actually just going through the motions of something that's predetermined. Now, I'm not sure I believe that to be the case. I just like having these thought experiments of like, what if I function like this for a while? What does it offer? Where does it keep me aligned? Where does it keep me enlightened? Where does it keep me more present with myself? But even then, if you're starting to grow beautifully and understand that everything is love, then that was predestined as well, and that's kind of beautiful. You couldn't help but come back to the nature of what everything is. And I say that because I fell into my spiritual awakening out of naivete. I didn't choose it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't even spiritual at the time. It just left me with a lot of confusion. I think the confusion's left me with the purpose of trying to clear a path to what's the best manageable beliefs to go forward in harmony. And as I said in another episode, language is play. Trying to do one thought is play. That as you get older, a couple things start to shift. So you start to grow. And the more you grow, the more information you take in just to get by, because we have, we're in a human body, we're in an earthly setting, we have to get by, we have to understand society, we need to connect, we need to learn to interact, we need to manage our own peace and other people's peace, and that's never just a straightforward task. It's one that folds and bends you in different ways, that strengthens you and expands you in different ways. After a while, you start to realize language is something best used in motion in a moment to serve a narrative sense of reality. If anything's too dogmatic, it causes problems, because it's not flexible with what life is like, which is life is fluid, just like time. When something is tacked down, there's compression in the love that it holds. Love is timeless, or love is time itself. And so as you get older, what you realize is the feelings behind what you're saying become more important. And in that sense, so you have a growth from the things that shape you as you bump your head and you try to form beliefs around what keeps you knowing who you are, what keeps you safe, what keeps you, until you realize there's so many exceptions that actually words are best used to let go and just give a positive intention as the thing to expect. And in this way we lift each other up. And in this way we expand, and we're not expanding from a place of control and thought. We're expanding from a place of enjoyment and energy. You understand your potential as influence through the energy that you put out, not through the constrictions that the things you try to block off. It's expansive. Let people learn. Let people follow their truth. Let people use words too much until they realize my words best express this thing that feels beautiful to be a part of, that feels beautiful to call a talent or a potential or a vocation or an area of curiosity. And so in that sense, the full image of love, it's infinite because it'll always be determined on what stage of our life we're in. And it has a course, which is expansion. And it has an essence, which it has its own life almost. It is an energy, because it's undefined, but we'll all use it to reflect on moments where we were all joyous, and when we use that word to reflect on moments when we were all joyous, it's like we repeat. It's like we re-trigger that. Oh my God, they said there was so much love in that moment. I remember that moment. Oh, I'm feeling it now. Oh my God, someone else reflected that. I didn't even have to say it. That meant they felt it too. That meant what I was feeling was kind of synonymous around everyone that I was with. Oh my gosh. So that moment was love. That moment. And so why isn't this moment love? Well, if I can remember that and the feeling comes up, then love is living inside of me. Then love is potentially my unfolding. into moments where I prioritize that sort of connection or bliss or ease, and if I just keep remembering that other moments are leading up to that, so they're also love too, then you just, what's the rush, right? And you conserve the energy of love, and you limit the expelling of energy towards also love, but things that are easy to misconceive and to forget why there's love in them. That tension around not accepting love in the moment, which is usually the tension around not feeling something we think that we're not capable of going through. Which are the things that then form us and lead us to our contributions that might invigorate love in someone else, in what we create, from the seed to the tree to the flowers on the tree, or the vine or the weed. All sorts of plants flower. Flowers are those moments where all the forgetting becomes something that could only be inspired by all that forgetting. Something that was personal to that person's expression of themselves in time as love. Hope this makes sense. Hope people gravitate towards it. Healer Holly, I want to do another episode on this. Just wax poetical about love. Please wax poetical about love in the comments beneath. Like and subscribe if you enjoy it. Send it to a friend if you think it can cheer them up. Just as I was saying, if we spend more activities that lead us to the expansion of understanding that we can feel joy, we can feel love, we can feel trust, we can feel happiness, we can feel compassion, we can be generous, we can feel gratitude. And we just fill the space with like the flowers, the fruits of the labor of that intention, that hope, that love, then we'll just fill our world with more mirrors to love. More mirrors in all kinds of aspects. We need to dig up what is love in every kind of circumstance. That's why everything is as it should be. Because all people, no matter what they're going through, hope for comfort, hope for success, hope for, or maybe not success, but at least comfort, well-surrounded, peace, harmony with themselves. So guys, this is Healer Holly, over and out. Love and life.